Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 8-game slate here for DraftKings for college basketball. We have some pretty good games on this slate, but we also have a couple blowouts. So the teams with the highest scoring potential here are Kentucky, which are actually favored, or actually have almost 15 actual points more than the second best scoring team. Creighton, Michigan, and then I would say Boise State or Richmond. All those teams have potential to get around 70 plus real points in their games, but obviously Kentucky is slated to get about 90 in this one, and that's also the one game that has a huge blowout potential. I think it's almost a 40-point game over South Carolina State. And then we have like Richmond, Boise, VCU, and Michigan game, and then Tulsa and Loyola. They all are pretty tight games. And then we do have one game between Creighton and Calvary, who should be a blowout in favor of Creighton. And with that said, let's get into the players I do like. Before I do, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel. So we're going to start with Marcus Shaver for Boise State here. He's one of the more expensive players on the slate, but he is averaging 1.13 fantasy points per game. As you can see in his first two games, he's done really well. And Boise State should be able to do pretty well in this game. I do like them in this matchup here. I believe the game is a 5 or 6 point game, and Boise's favored to score about 70 real points. So I think that they have a good opportunity in this matchup, and Shaver should be able to dominate in this one. Then we're going to look at Severe Wheeler for Kentucky. Now he's expensive, and his minutes may fluctuate a little bit, considering the fact that this game will probably get out of hand pretty quickly. And he will have a good opportunity, though, to score lots of fantasy points if it does stay tight. He's a double-double machine, and he does get steals and stuff, too, so he's definitely a great option. Then we'll look at Cason Wallace for Kentucky as well. He had his coming-out party against Michigan State with 8 steals. He's actually got 12 steals so far in the season in 3 games, and he looks like he's poised to have a really solid game here in this one. Again, the only real risk with him is if his minutes get a little bit hacked down because of the blowout potential. But he should play at least 30 minutes, I would say, in this particular game. Then Max Rice here for Boise. He's another guy from Boise I think is in a pretty solid place here. He's averaging 0.86 fantasy points a minute. Not as ideal, but he's still got pretty good upside. Even though his prices come up a lot, he's still in an interesting spot here. And so he's definitely worth taking a look at. For value options, we have Craig Porter for Wichita State. He has been pretty good in his first 2 games, and he's averaging 1.14 fantasy point per game, and I look for him to play about 30 minutes in this one, and this should be a pretty tight game, so I think he has some opportunity here. Then we'll look at Jason Nelson for Richmond here against Wichita. He is kind of the counterpart to Porter, and I look for him to have a really good opportunity in this one, especially considering the favor. Especially considering they are favored to win, and he should be playing a maximum amount of minutes in this game as well. And then finally, with my big value play here is Jackson Threadgill for Charlotte. Now he has a tough matchup here, but his price is $3,600, and he's averaging almost a 0.9 points per minute. Sorry, 0.9. 9/10 of a minute of 1 point per minute, and he has some opportunity in this matchup. He doesn't really get peripheral stats. It does rely on scoring, so you do have to keep that in mind. But he seems like a pretty decent value play. Then we'll look at for forwards. We're gonna start with Oscar Tshiebwe, who just absolutely went bananas against Michigan State. Obviously, his price is extremely high, but he has double-double potential, and I do like him on this slate, especially considering the fact that he'll likely get more rebounds against a weak opponent. Then we'll look at Hunter Dickinson for Michigan. Now, he's in an interesting spot here. He's been extremely good this season, and he's got a 1.42 fantasy point per minute, which is second on the slate to Oscar, who's at 1.6. So I expect him to have a good opportunity in this game where they are favored and to score a lot of points. Then Tyler Burton from Richmond. He's another guy that I think is in a pretty good spot. He had a mammoth game in his last game, scoring 38 points. I don't expect him to do that in this one, but I do expect him to average over a point per minute and he should play in the high 30s, low 40, to get to 40 if it's like an overtime game or something. So I think he'll play most of the minutes of the game. Najee Smith for Boise State looks like he's in a decent spot here. I believe he does come off the bench. He's averaging 0.8 fantasy points per minute, but he's a good value play on this one. He seems like to be a good sixth man, and he does get some peripheral stats as well, which is nice. And then Tom Welch is another good value play for Loyola against Tulsa. In his first two games, he's been a little bit up and down, but I expect him to have a pretty solid game here. He's averaged 1.13 fantasy points per minute, and he's got a good matchup here to do that again. And then finally, St. Thomas from Loyola as well. He's in a nice good spot here. He's averaging about 29 minutes a game, and he's averaging almost 9/10 of a point per minute. And at this $4,900 price point, he looks like a pretty safe play on the slate. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, or if there's any players you feel like I left out, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, have a nice day, guys.